everyone, welcome to the Sonically podcast where music creators educate music creators. I'm Elmo. In today's episode, we are thrilled to host Kossisko, a rapper, songwriter, and performer known for their unique blend of rap, funk, and R&B. Kossisko's music, characterized by its bold themes and innovative soundscapes, has distinguished them as one of the most original voices in the contemporary music scene. Starting their career under the moniker Hundreds and gaining recognition for his revival of West Coast G-Funk vibes, Kossisko has since evolved, embracing a more eclectic and experimental approach to their music. In our conversation today, we'll dive into Kossisko's musical journey, discussing the evolution of their style, creative process, and what drives their transformations. So without further ado, let's welcome the incredibly talented Kossisko to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a hell of an intro.
I love your name, man. Like, whenever I hear the name in my head, I want to shout it out like Kossisko, Kossisko.
That's I used to get like, I mean, it's a cool name, but then like when the substitute teachers came to class, they always would just butcher it. You know?
Oh, yeah. How did they say it usually? Like, what were some of the faults?
Usually it'd be like Kossisko, or it'd be like Ka, and then everybody would just start laughing. They would know it was me.
I had that too, because with my name being Elmo, it was always the Tickle Me Elmo Association. So I would just wait for that first day of class. It would be like they go down the list, like Bill Bellamy, Steve Crestingson, Elmo Chong. He was always asking a question, and then like they'd stumble, and then I just wait for the laughs. So I can relate.
It's a sick name, man.
Thank you. But yeah, we've been so excited to have you on the show because you just have an incredible story to tell, and we just want to be able to highlight all of these amazing points along the journey of your career. But I was wondering if we could just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with music in your life?
No. I mean, like, I grew up with it in the sense of like, I'd rush home to watch TRL, like it was through TV, but nah, like no one in my family really played music. The first time I got introduced to it was we had a drumming class in my elementary school. So that was it. That was like when I first started kind of performing and learning a little bit about music. But yeah, no, I wish, it would have been fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of playing and learning music, it was that drumming class, but did you have sort of a sonic environment growing up? Like, did you have people around you playing different types of music from different eras that kind of got into your soul early on? For sure.
My mom had really good taste in music. My mom really liked soul music. She liked the Jackson 5 and Rick James and cool stuff like that. My dad, because he's from Africa, he was always playing cool stuff like this guy Mayway or this group called Magic System from the Ivory Coast. And he was into more like Sade, Tony Braxton vibes too. And so yeah, that's kind of the soundscape that I grew up in, I guess. They didn't really listen to rap though. My mom was kind of into like Dr. Dre and Snoop like a little bit. So I'd hear that a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, it was, rap wasn't really a part of it.
Oh,
but that was more through like the radio and shit and like my homies.
Interesting. Because you kind of debuted as an MC.
Yeah.
And I guess from listening to those songs and then getting into that drum class, learning sort of some fundamentals, and then discovering hip hop, discovering rap. How did you discover sort of the creative process or the process of creating music where you realize I could take these words and I could put them to these beats. I can actually say something, and it would be meaningful to me and to other people.
I have this memory when it must have been like maybe 10 or 11. I had this babysitter, and like he was just like this kind of stoner dude. And one time he started playing his guitar while he was babysitting me, and he was just like freestyle something. So I started freestyling this song, and it was like some shit like oak tree, just like some hippie kind of shit. Just some peace and love shit. And I think when he played it back, something kind of clicked, like, oh, okay, like this is kind of fun. And I kind of have a cool voice. And then, yeah, I think the response he gave me, where he was like, he seemed pretty impressed. I don't know if he was just being nice, but I took it, and it gave me confidence. And then I started writing, but I was too, I guess, like self-conscious to really record anything or take it seriously. And then that continued just for years. I was just writing. I would kind of like, I saw myself as a rapper in my head, but I just hadn't gotten to the point where I was actually recording stuff and had found my voice. And then I downloaded the app called I Am T-Pain. I don't know if you remember that app, where it would just like auto-tune your voice like T-Pain. So I would just like put on that app, and then I just started freestyling on that app. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, all right, now some about that, just hearing it through the auto-tune and hearing like, okay, I sound good. I can kind of show my personality in this and show who I am. That's kind of where it clicked for me at listening back to I Am T-Pain.
That's dope. So the first song was a freestyle, the Oak Tree joint. But
yeah, the Oak Tree.
When you sort of fast forward to like, writing all of those, I don't know if they were poems or if they were just sort of like, just like you had a rhyme book, or like what was the writing genesis?
I just had this journal. Really, okay. I remember I started seriously writing. My father sent me to Africa, and I lived there for 2 years. And so in Africa, I had all this time on my hands, and it was obviously a pretty rough time, because like I got sent there kind of against my will. So how I would escape was through music, listening to it. And I'm talking like, Mac Dre and shit, like super bass shit that would make me feel connected. And I started just writing in these copybooks that he got me. They were for school, but I've never been into school. So that's kind of where it started, where I think they're actually at my dad's house still, these like initial raps I wrote while I was there, which kind of just sounded like Mac Dre and just shit I was listening to.
Yeah.
But that's when I think it started coming together.
That's cool. Do you remember sort of like the first formalized song that you created with some of those notes that you had, where you actually downloaded a beat, put your voice to it, and it was like fully sort of formalized in terms of verse, chorus sort of structure and everything?
Yeah. It was this song called MIA, featuring this guy who we went to middle school together, and like him and then this my first producer, they made music back in middle school, and I was always like, oh fuck, like I was just so enamored by them and what they were doing. So then full circle, like I think when I was 18, finally I got to work with this producer named Joe Wax and this guy Jay Folks, who they had worked together. And then I just got in the booth. I did my song. It was called MIA. It was kind of just like, I think it was like some kind of heavy trap, almost like Lex Luger sounding kind of beat, because this is like 2010. And then, that was the first time I had like structured out a song to a beat with verse, chorus, and then it had a feature of this guy Jay Folks on it. And that was when I first was like, okay, in terms of structure. That's cool. So when I guess I learned how to write a chorus and kind of the difference between a chorus and a verse, and how I guess I learned choruses took me a minute. I think when I was writing in my notebook, I couldn't figure out how to write choruses. I don't know why, but in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm MIA and I'm so high behind my fucking shades, riding through the fucking bay, bitches say I'm MIA, and that was just the chorus, and it just repeated.
Nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned the moment during childhood when your dad had sort of sent you to another country. Being at present time where you're at in your journey, do you consider sort of that period of time the hardest moment in your journey to becoming a renowned artist? Or what are some of the periods and the moments that you could describe as the hardest moments? How did that shape you, and how did you overcome those hardships?
Man, how much time we got? Africa was hard. Yeah, that was like devastating. That, because that was the first time. I was pretty alone. And I didn't really have a roadmap of how to navigate the feelings I was feeling, and I didn't have a lot of support. So that was really difficult. I think I still struggle with stuff from that to this day, that I try to work on in therapy and stuff, just like kind of the PTSD and the kind of abandonment issues that I went through from that. It was pretty hard when I transitioned away from hundreds into, the Kossisko, into just what I do now. It wasn't met with like open arms or anything by any means. It was people were pretty harsh, and that hurt a lot, obviously, at the time. And how I dealt with that was I knew when I made the decision to walk away from hundreds, I was totally unafraid. I was like, okay, I feel my power. I'm confident in myself. I know I can do more than this. It was just such a limiting box for me. And I was like growing as a person, as an artist, but also as a person, where like you want to talk about more things and dive into other issues and other parts of yourself. And within that persona, you're not able to do that with something like that. So I just followed that. I followed that feeling of, okay, despite the fact that it's difficult as fuck right now and people don't get it, when I was confident and I was, really myself, I knew I could do this. So I just had to hold on to that. And that's kind of my North Star. And then more recently, I was diagnosed with this. Essentially, I have like a bunch of tangled blood vessels in my brain. It's called a cerebral AVM. And that was like 2 years ago. So that was like full stop to everything. I had to get radiation, all this crazy shit. Another time where it's like I had to turn to just creativity to just escape kind of the initial reality of that happening. So that's kind of how I cope with it. I remember creating and escaping is what it makes me feel so good. And I feel like that's what my calling, and creating that for people. So I try to just, anytime I'm in, just the throes of some dark shit, I just turn back to that. I try to.
That's awesome. You had mentioned sort of the kind of transitioning from hundreds to the persona that to you essentially.
Yeah.
Because as a rapper, there's a lot of machismo, there's a lot of swag, there's a lot of braggadocio in that genre of music. And you had said that it was met with some resistance, I guess, through your peers and other people around you. What were some of the things that were being said to you when you had sort of brought up the topic of exploring sort of like this new side of yourself?
Basically, just like don't do it. You can't do it. You're going to lose everything. Just like confine yourself to this thing because it works, and like just whatever, just fuck all that other stuff. Essentially, just like nobody really, I mean, now that I look back, it's like people are scared. People are scared of themselves and looking into themselves. So why are they going to encourage you to do that? But yeah, I mean, the people that were really close to me, and understood me, understood it's something I had to do for myself. It wasn't about anyone else really, because, you know, stuff was, my career, it was going fine. You know, it wasn't like it was only getting better. So I knew that I had to do that for myself. And yeah, people said horrible things. People would comment horrible things. Just essentially like, they tried to make me feel like once I stepped out of that persona and stopped talking about those themes of like what you just mentioned, you know, machismo and misogyny and all this fucking bullshit, you know, it was like my voice didn't matter. And that's what they attempted to make me feel like, you know, that's what I was met with. It was like, oh, once you step out of this box that I guess people understood, you know, or maybe the fans I had or whatever understood me as, or this kind of, you know, this Mac character guy. It was like nothing I could say and nothing I could do mattered. And my voice didn't matter. And me as Kossisko, the person, that didn't matter. If that makes sense. Even though to me, I never understood it, because it's like the through line of everything I do is funk. Mm-hmm. I'm super inspired by funk and G-funk. And that's been in every single thing I've ever done. And so I think if you love funk, then you can get into anything I'm doing at any point. But if you were attached to those sort of toxic elements that come with rap music or whatever, then, you know, that's on you. I can't confine myself to those when there's so many other things that inspire me, you know.
When did you notice, or when did you start to embrace this new identity? I guess you can call it what people they like to call it as non-binary identity. And how has this personal journey influenced your music and your performances? Because it must be such a different scope now.
It makes me, even just when you talk about it, it makes me happy, because it's almost like I started embracing it like when I was a kid, you know, before I understood like sort of the boundaries of what society tells you can and can't be. You know, I liked everything. Sometimes I'd wear boy clothes and then girl clothes or whatever. And I was just free. I was totally free. And that's how I saw the world. I liked whatever music I liked. I was into whatever I was into. And I didn't see the need to divide myself into these sections. But then as I got older, then society kind of showed me, no, because this is how shit is. And because you look like this or whatever, this is how you're supposed to be. So then I kind of dimmed that light, I think. And then it got to a point where I couldn't dim it anymore, because in my personal life, I was already living it, you know, but then it was just like to people, I wouldn't want to claim it outwardly, if that makes sense. But then it got to a point where after I had my kind of brain injury a few years ago, where it was like, because, you know, it was pretty serious. I almost died, you know. So when you have that moment, you're just like, okay, I can live my fucking truth and be myself and live that life, because it can just be gone like that. And I don't mean that in like a scary way. I mean that in like just be aware of that kind of just beautiful way of like, it doesn't really matter. It's not worth not being unhappy or not being happy and not being yourself for fear of some other shit, because you can go like that. And I realized in that moment, when I was in that super dark period after I had the brain injury, it's not like the people that are going to critique you are going to be following up with you when you have problems. You know, you're with yourself, and then your family or people that are close to you, you know? Yeah. So I felt like I just had to liberate myself, because I was kind of just hitting a wall, and I was like, okay, now it's limiting my art, trying to still kind of find ways to, okay, like I'm doing this, but then I'm still kind of trying to fit into this box of what society tells me I can be, from an artistic standpoint. And then once I just was like, fuck that, it's just like, it felt like so much just inspiration and just creativity and shit that I was like suppressing from when I was a kid that I wanted to do artistically, because it didn't make sense with what society told me I could do or what I could be. So now, when I approach stuff creatively, there's just no limits. You know, when I approach music, fashion, any aspect of my identity. There's just no limits. And like for me as an artist, I just needed that. I really needed that,
I think that probably ties into the theme of the single of Slayerz Ball, Finally Free. Mm-hmm. And this is described as a powerful anthem about turning personal pain into strength. Some of the lyrics read, finally free, all I need is me.
That part.
What impact do you hope to have with the message of this song?
I mean, just that statement that like, at the end of the day, if you got you, I think you're going to be okay. And like, I think you do need people as well, but I think that, that's where the freedom is. Like once you start to love yourself, people can love you and you can also truly love people. And I think, just freedom means just freeing yourself of like just limiting and negative beliefs and just like negative shit that we all deal with. And so that the pre-chorus is there's nothing left to lose. That's kind of me just being like, okay, there's nothing left to lose. It's like you're already at rock bottom or even just you notice that like, okay, you've tried to fit into boxes and and it doesn't work. So there's nothing left to lose. You might as well just surrender and just like love yourself, and free yourself. That's kind of what it came from. Mm-hmm. And I hope that anyone listening just gets that out of it.
For sure. Yeah, you also mentioned that from the beginning, from day one, you've been inspired by funk. And with hip hop, it starts with G-Funk. And I don't know if maybe Warren G and like kind of that group of guys were the inspirations for the hip hop side of things. But then now when I listen to the music, it's kind of like on this, that Prince, Rick James kind of vibe. And it even went so far as to, in the creative process, you were able to collaborate with the Stone City Band and kind of emulate or create or borrow some of the soundscapes from that band into your own sort of sonic expression. Can you share a little bit more about how that collaboration came to be and what it was like working with such legends like that?
I think I expressed to my manager that I wanted to work with them just because I was such a big Rick James fan. I was like, what are they up to? So he reached out and we met with their manager, Kenny, who has now become like an uncle to me. Like I love Kenny. And he was, he told them the idea and they were into it. So they're like, yeah, come to Vegas. So I went out to Vegas and I met the band and I saw them. I got to see them rehearse and it was just pretty mind blowing because they're playing, it's everyone there except for Rick, obviously, but they're playing Mary Jane and Super Freak and everything. And the process was kind of like, it was less about like what they were playing. It was more about, I wanted to understand the headspace they were in when they made the music, if that makes sense. So I would just ask them a lot of questions like that, kind of what was it like when you had made this song, or how did you guys do the background vocals on this, or who came up with this part or whatever, or even just like when y'all got to the studio, was it like Rick is telling you guys what's going on, or you guys already know? And I got super close to Levi Ruffin, who, is the band leader. And he just gave me so much insight into, more just like the period of time. And I guess just Rick as a person and himself too, and that just really informed, I think just the writing, a lot of my writing and just the soundscape, but we were trying to really hit this specific kind of what Rick James called punk funk, where, I think it's elements of funk and rock and roll and stuff like that. And, I think we did it. It took a while, but I think we got it, Yeah.
That's dope. Rick James and the Stone City Band were also known for the exploration of their own identity, like even with sort of like the fashion,
The hair, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Their whole swag was very much it it was very much their own thing, and especially during that time, there weren't a lot of groups and artists doing what they did. Did you ask them about sort of that thing, that realm of kind of expression?
No, I mean, well, like when I like Levi, essentially, he just was kind of like they just didn't really give a fuck, like because they were from Buffalo, so like it wasn't like they couldn't fight. It wasn't like they were scared of anyone. So then when they chose to like dress in these these theatrical costumes and have glitter and wigs and almost be like almost like the black version of Kiss or something like that, it was just like they didn't give a fuck because like they would fuck you up, but then they could still go, you know what I mean, get on stage and do that. And I just thought that was so cool because like Levi, yeah, like he was in the military, he was like, and he was like a pro, I think he was a pro baseball player for a minute. And so, yeah, it was just, they just didn't give a fuck, and I just love that because they still kind of have that to this day. The spirit of just like, they don't give a fuck. Because they know they're badass players and they know who they are, And I love when I hear Rick James and when I hear Stone City Band, there's just so much like confidence, and I think that's why I'm always drawn to funk music because it's so unapologetic and it's just so confident, It's just like it's almost like primal, know. I love the funk.
Yeah, I love the fact that we had that moment because there was a period where I think a lot of people forgot about Rick James, a lot of people forgot about that era, but then Charlie Murphy was able to kind of bring those stories back.
Oh my God.
And yeah, that was pretty epic for me because like hilarious stories, but like those stories really gave us a picture of who Rick really was,
Yeah, I think that whole Chappelle show shit just had an impact on me too as a kid, just being like, it kind of started my like, it's like I view the 80s as like this mystical, crazy sort of like paradise lost. I mean, there was some dark shit too, but just like the shit that they showed, in the music videos and stuff like that. And then the Chappelle show, I'm like, I think that's when my kind of obsession with the 80s really was like, what the fuck is that? How could that have been real?
Yeah.
And then you talk to them, it's like, yeah, that shit was real. It was a totally different planet,
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's just, yeah, it's always been so inspiring. I love the drama of the 80s, how it's like everything's so big and so over the top and so dramatic. It's not subtle.
Yeah.
At all. And I think I try to embody that.
That's so dope.
Yeah,
it's definitely a different time than now. I mean, mm-hmm. I guess we're living in an era these days where everything's very much, you have to kind of check your political correctness all the time and kind of check your kind of like how, there's more definitions now, like of sort of, personalities and people, like there's more definitions, but it's sort of like, it's with all this technology, it's gone to a point where like a lot of times, we have to think twice about how we are putting ourselves out. And if you are sort of doing something more outside the box, I don't know if it takes more bravery, but it still takes a lot of bravery because you are a lot of times like you're kind of out there on your own, as you said, and you just have to kind of drown out all the noise that's in your face, right?
Yeah, I think it's almost like Africa sort of prepared me for that reality. I guess I look at it kind of where I'm like, okay, because I was already, I was super isolated. I was away from my family, my friends, and all I had was what I was into and my art, So at this point, I kind of just expect that, I kind of keep my blinders on. I'm really mindful about what I'm consuming and what I'm reading and what I'm watching and what I'm listening to. And I just got to follow whatever it is that, my mission is with whatever project I'm doing. Cause yeah, I mean, even to me, I mean, it's so hard that even if you just start listening to too much music, it'll influence you. Cause there's so much shit out. There's so much music. There's just, we're so bombarded by so much shit all the time that it's so easy for like that idea you had that was super strong to just kind of, start swaying once you start listening to other people or listening to what other people are doing in music, or on TV or whatever. So I've learned for myself, because I'm such a sponge, I have to really make sure I'm mindful of what I'm consuming when I'm making shit. Because I'm like ADD.
Yeah, totally. Same way.
Man,
I wanted to ask you about a clip that I saw, and it was only from a couple of years ago. It was a clip where you had signed a record deal with G-Eazy's label. And I guess, like some of I heard some of the songs that you guys put out, like they were fire. Like you guys are such a good sort of collaborative unit when you do make music. For this particular record, are you still releasing this under the label, or are you like full on independent now, or is there a different situation?
Yeah. Independent. Yeah. Right. Different situation.
Gotcha. How does that feel to like, the difference of having a label to kind of being responsible for all of the business stuff, being sort of like hands-on with everything?
I mean, it's a learning process, but I think I like the freedom, so there's pros and cons, but yeah, I'm liking it. It's feeling good,
Dope. Well, I definitely loving that you're enjoying the process, and we're very much looking forward to what's on the horizon for you, and we're rooting for you. We're just hoping that like you get just an ultimate sense of fulfillment and joy from everything that you're doing right now. As I mentioned before, this podcast is made for the purpose to educate the next generation of music creators and to pass down wisdom and knowledge for them, so that, if they're in their mom's basement trying to write raps or make beats or whatever, they're not
the good times.
They're not so
the simple times
in the dark all the time, But the next question, and this is the final question in the main question area, is what advice would you give to young artists who look up to you and aspire to make their mark as an accomplished artist, songwriter, performer like yourself?
What advice would I give? Just keep the blinders on. I think make sure you have a respect for music, like all music, and be a student of the game for sure. I think I've always been a student of music and trying to study songwriting structure, different genres of music, why different things are effective in music, why just get super nerdy with the shit with the shit that you like. Really break it down, really understand what you like about it, who produced it, what else they produced, binge artist discographies. That's the type of shit that I do still. I think just figure out what you like. And then once you figured out what you like, really fucking zone in on that to where you're almost like a historian or whatever of whatever you're into. And then I think once you get to that point and understand that, because the more you listen to music and the more you especially listen to artists' albums, like deep cuts on the albums, I personally love deep cuts because they're almost like the process pieces that are like, cause as an artist, sometimes when you come up with an album, there's a few songs on there that like, they're a deep cut. They're never going to be the big song, but it's like they're the precursor to another song you're going to make on the next album that may be the big song. So I like to dive into artists' discographies and find those songs because that's when you can kind of hear like, oh, okay, they're trying to do this thing that they're about to do because we can see it because it's in the past, but they haven't figured it out yet. And I think once you start to see that, I mean, there's so many seeds in those songs of like different ways you yourself can take it and do something different with it, if that makes sense. It's like an artist does a bunch of the work for you, then you can kind of drop and say, oh shit, okay. So they went to go make this song, but what if I took it this way? That'd be something I really advise to do that shit, to just, and I think experiment with, from a songwriting standpoint, for yourself and for other people, remove all your boundaries when you go into songwriting, like race, gender, sexuality, remove all that shit and just think of what's going to be the best song, because I think those things are super limiting. Mm-hmm. And it's like, for example, if you identify as, oh, I'm a straight man. Okay, cool. So how are you then going to write for someone else who is not a straight man? Or, you know what I'm saying? Just, you can't write outside of your box. So I think it's really important that break all that shit down and try to just understand people as a whole. And then I think you can become a really good writer for people. And when you work with artists as a writer, I think it's really important. Anytime I've done a writing session with someone else, the first question is always, what do you want to write about? And there's usually something they want to write about that everyone else has told them they shouldn't write about. Or it's like something they've been like, I want to find the most self-indulgent kind of thing that they want to do. And I'm like, let's just do that. Let's double down on that. I don't give a fuck about what else is going on. And that's how I try to approach my own music as well. But I noticed that the times I've done that, artists are always like, oh shit, I didn't think I could write a song about this because it's not, maybe the biggest song in the world at the time is not like that. And I'm like, that's why I'm just like, keep the blinders on and just do what you want to do.
That's fire.
Cause that's, I think how that's my, and then you see people get so happy. Like in the same way I get happy when I just do some self-indulgent shit that sounds like nothing else out there at the time. You see that in artists and songwriters when they just get to just like, it's almost like you get to be a kid where all this other shit is irrelevant. And I think that's the moment I'm always trying to find.
That's so dope. Now that Slayerz Ball is finished and it's about to be dropped, where do you go next with the sound? Like, are you experimenting with anything else in terms of the evolution of Kossisko?
I haven't even thought about it yet. I think I've been more focused on the live aspect, because I haven't played live in like 2 years. And this time when I'm going out, I got this crazy funk band and it's going to be a whole different experience. It's like kind of what I always wanted to do. Yeah. So I usually have a tendency when I finish an album towards the end, I start working on the next album. It's just this kind of pattern I have. But with this one, intentionally, I'm like, nah, I'm going to fully experience this live moment and this kind of release and just be present. As opposed to like, with my ADHD creative kind of manic energy. No, I'm going to go do another album right now. So, I don't know. I mean, I know that, it'll probably be funky. It'll have some element of funk or G-funk. But the ideas I'm kind of thinking about loosely are just like, okay, how do I, just bridge the gap with more genres and infuse it into G-funk. And even, what the fuck would like experimental G-funk sound like in terms of like song structure?
Yeah.
Or even if I've used like G-funk or punk funk or Minneapolis funk or whatever. Yeah, we're just like, I don't know, some crazy, I don't know. I'm just like, I need to get in there and just start fucking around. That's when it comes. Yeah. But those are kind of the general ideas I'm thinking about. Like, how do I push this shit forward? Because there's so many people who, funk, they don't know about the funk, They don't know about it.
Gotta get
No, so I'm like, I got to take it somewhere cool.
Nice. Well, definitely looking forward to that. I'm just looking forward to seeing how everything evolves. At this point, we're moving on to the rapid fire round. These questions are just quick, simple, short answer type of questions that we like to ask every creator just to sort of see where they're at with just and how they sort of see themselves as a music creator. So Yeah, so
Okay.
here we go. Rapid fire round. Number one, what DAW do you use and why?
I mean, I like GarageBand just because it's super simple and I can get my ideas out really quickly. I use it on my iPad.
Dope.
I used to work in Ableton, but Garage it's just so quick and easy,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have a long attention span, so I'm like, either that or voice memos.
Favorite plugins?
I like Valhalla Vintage Verb. That always sounds incredible, and I like Alter Boy for just vocal effects and layers, and I love to get experimental on that.
What is a sound that always brings you joy?
The sound of a slap bass, like when someone's playing flat bass, yeah, every time.
How would you rank your music creator skill sets out of 10 for the following? First one, beat making.
I would like 2.
Lyric writing.
I would like 10.
Sound design.
5.
Mixing.
Oh, like 0.
Top lining.
Oh, like 10.
Music theory.
Oh, like a 3.
Arranging.
Like a 5.
What is your reaction or facial expression when you know you made some heat?
Oh, I stand up. I stand up and I'll grab my phone and I'll start acting like I'm performing it for people in the stage. I'll just start dancing around and just like I'm at Woodstock or wherever the fuck, That's how I know I got some heat. That's always my reaction.
That's awesome.
Or I'll just sit there quietly and just like it's emotional,
it.
Yeah, for sure.
When do you feel 100% happy with a song you made?
It's just like an internal kind of benchmark I have where I'm like, where I can't think of anything else I want to say. That's how I know. Now that's separate from production. The production can still go on, but for me on my end, as a songwriter, I'm like, if there's nothing else I want to say, the idea is full circle, the concept is clear, it's cohesive. That's all I wanted to say. I know I'm done.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If AI technology was somehow able to take over our jobs as music creators, what new career path would you choose?
Probably like landscape architecture. I'd want to like build parks or something. Like just for whatever. I love parks. I'm always trying to find just like a beautiful park. And I think it's super important that we have them just for everyone, for kids, for adults, for everyone. So I've thought about that. Like, just maybe I'll do that later in life. I don't know. But yeah.
That's so cool. That's interesting, actually. Yeah, parks are super important.
You know what I'm saying? Well, also like think about what if they had like parks where you could somehow infuse like, okay, like, like they have like the parks where they have like the workout equipment that's like body weight stuff. Yeah. What if there was like a park where like there was a recording booth or something where like people could go and do DIY shit. They had like instruments in the park or just like a loud, maybe a noisy ass park. You have to put it away from people, but you know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that.
Like a park for creators or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a creative park.
Well, like there's this one there's this one in Berkeley, on the marina called Adventure Playground, where it's a park where you go to this park and kids just build shit. Like you get nails, you get pieces of board, and all the, the play structures are just built by people. And I'm like, so stuff like that, that just stimulates your brain and gets you creative, but it's also scenic and beautiful.
I think if there were to be a park like that, there'd have to be some sort of like water sounds going on. I feel like water, anything like running water sounds always sort of stimulates creativity for me.
That'd be cool. It could be like almost like it's within like a moat or something. It's just like,
yeah. There's
like, man, this is like an idea. Like, I feel like we should definitely do this.
Let's do it. I'm
with you on
that.
Alignment.
We just need a lot of money. You've got to raise a lot of money for that and get board approvals from the government and stuff from the city.
We'll figure it out. We'll get the water.
What's next for Kossisko? Anything you want to promote?
Slayerz Ball album, June 7th. Show at the Peppermint Club in Los Angeles, June 13th. If you guys are in town, definitely pull up. We got you.
Thank you.
I got a few more shows that I'm not allowed to announce yet, but they will probably be in the Bay Area. So yeah, and as of now, that's what's going on.
Awesome. We are so excited for you, and we are just we're here to root for you and support you however you need.
Thank you,
and
guys.
we just really want we really thank you for sharing your story, especially like with the transparency that you provided for us, because it will really go a long way for anybody who's just getting started in the game and needs sort of some guidance to help them out. And
I appreciate you guys for even just obviously asking me on and just creating this type of thing, you know, because I think it's so necessary for people to have just like a realistic expectation of what this shit is like, because I feel like there's no map.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's really no map. There's no roadmap. And you kind of get into it, and like, I got into it because like I put out a mixtape when I was 19 and it went viral, and like and here I am. But there's no roadmap. So I think that, you know, stuff like this is so important, and I'm happy to do it whenever.
Thank you so much. We'd love to have you back. We'd love to
for sure.
Sort of like, when you're in your next sort of phase of your journey, Slayerz Ball 2
sure.
or whatever that next evolution is, you know, we'd love to hear the stories that came from it and everything. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So, thanks again. And, let's, stay in touch, and, we're rooting for you once again.
Thank you guys. Okay.
Cool.
We'll speak soon.